Genshin Impact is a flawed game, although on the outside it is really an astonishing game. In its core lies a problem that affects every player. It has really suffered throughout time. It's not that it has lost its magic.
I hear you're from a faraway land. It's an honor to be in the company of dignitaries. My family tells me that only the wisest scholars wear pointed hats like this one.
Oh, I like her.
But the game has surely turned somewhat of a chore. I know I'm not the only one who thinks this way. Genshin seems to be on a all-time low, and just in my close circles I have been noticing a lot of disinterest. Endgame content is shit, the game has a lot of problems when it comes to engaging their oldest players, and no, it is not as simple as taking a freaking vacation off the game, although for some may work. We do have a reason to feel distressed, to feel this way. That is because the game is a total joke after AR-55. Now, don't get me wrong, in general Genshin Impact is an incredible game with its stupendous story, marvelous music, and gorgeous scenery, but don't expect it to be just that. Expect countless hours of repetitiveness, tiresome gameplay, and overall just misery. If you are a player looking for a fun experience, then I would recommend a lot of other games before mentioning Genshin Impact, to be honest, unless you are really into anime 3D animation or those stomp on me daddy characters or children. Nah, just kidding. If you are into children, I can recommend you this. Now, you may think my opinion can be invalidated because this is my first gacha experience and I haven't played Breath of the Wild. But I have been playing for a year and 5 months now. I am AR-57 and I burn when I meet sunlight. I have played this game too much that whenever I pass near one of these, I get the urge of going and stepping down on it until a chest appears. No kidding. Like, this is a Genshin critique and I have to point out it's made from the point of view of more advanced old players, which means that these may be more pessimistic than other reviews or critiques. This critique is not for convincing you that you shouldn't play this game. You should, but this video will tend to focus on the negative side of the things. Now, before we start, I'd like to mention today's sponsor. And finally, please take seat, fasten your seatbelts, maintain your body inside the plane at all times, and welcome to the Genshin Impact is Flawed, the critique. Spoiler warning, I'm going to talk about the following quest. If you haven't completed one of them, feel free to skip this section or come back whenever you have finished them. How better way to start than with the most strongest aspect of the game? Although I'm not educated enough to really form a proper opinion about the story of the game, it doesn't take a whole bunch of brain power to be able to appreciate a story. I would not be able to deconstruct the story and analyze it, but it's good. To my knowledge, games generally divide their story into 3 categories: the main plot, the lore, and the characters. And as your typical gacha, obviously characters are probably one of the most important aspects to take care of. And gosh, this game absolutely kills it. I'm a man that considers art to be the little details, the things no one would normally put attention to, gather in one point. And the amount of times I have seen that on here is actually mind-blowing. China's traditional singing is not really my cup of tea, but hell! The Divine Damsel of Devastation made me water myself in 2 senses. Not only that, but now I want to spend my whole bank account on a DLC tech character named Shanghai that I don't really need.
I suspect smashing his head against the ground a handful of times is all it would have taken to get him to surrender.
You admire a character for trying more than for their successes. This is the first rule of Pixar storytelling. I choose to believe this actually does make good storytelling. Firstly, because look at those charts. It's Pixar, come on. And because no one wants perfect characters, people often connect with characters that struggle because that makes them human. And I think Genshin Impact overuses this rule to their advantage really well. Even though what you find here may not be groundbreaking, eye-opening, shocking fantasy, it will connect with you. You like it or not. Characters have struggles, worries, passions, and interests. They feel human. Even archons that are technically gods who rule entire nations are not perfect. They also suffer, get angry, or experience joy. But that's the magic behind it. We are empathic towards others. We may even see our own past struggles in these characters and thus get emotionally connected with them. And once you get connected towards one character, then you just got vectored. Now you have to spend time or money into the game in order to get that one character. Welcome to the tribe. But really, character stories, at least in my humble opinion, are the high pinnacle of this game. Now, plot-wise, at first I thought that the whole thing of getting the sibling back has really suffered throughout the time. It feels like it is not as important as when I started the game. Like, I often thought that the traveler was playing dumb, you know? He could have traversed that abyss portal with his sister, but he purposely didn't. Oh no! I couldn't get there in time! Anyways, back to the good stuff, ladies! Apparently this is far from reality. It was just that I'm an old player and started forgetting details of the story, and although what I'm saying may seem pointless, I do worry for the longer this game develops, since first, I guess most of the player base will start to also forget. Second, there's no fucking way to repeat missions! Not even cutscenes! Can somebody tell me a reasonable explanation for this? Oh wait, never mind. Travel logs exist.
Oh, well, I guess this is goodbye for now.
Okay, it's not my taste exactly, but doesn't matter. I can turn the screen off and use this as an audiobook, right?
Winds may blow. That's the spirit.
Oh my god! What? To get a refresh on the game's plot, I watched this great almost 4-hour long beta from Altered Maverick, since Hoyoverse refuses from giving us a proper way to rewatch the past missions, and I noticed two things. Genshin Impact lore is as good as I remember, 10 out of 10. Genshin Impact presentation of the story sucks complete ass, 0 out of 10. Okay, maybe not completely.
Youthful glow.
Praising yourself? Really?
But the thing is that this video is so fucking interesting, you guys. It made me realize that if presented in a better format, the lore can actually be 1,000 times more interesting and engaging. And yes, this is mostly personal preference, but what we currently have now is literally a PowerPoint presentation of the story.
Silk flowers exhibit different properties based on how they're environed. Just look at the abundant foliage here. And these stamens, glamorous as a maiden of the golden by contrast. This variety thrives in any dark, damp location. Lastly, this...
Can you see yourself playing for 4 more regions with this type of gameplay? Like, don't get me wrong, I do see myself going through 4 more regions with this type of gameplay, but if I get there, my soul will be sucked. I'll be more dry than an average teenager on the 1st of December. This thing can do the work for telling the story at the start of the game, but as an older player, I just find it highly repetitive. I swear if I see this animation of Paimon again, like this movement, poses, and facial expressions actually feel so robotic right now. It is so repetitive that I actually can recognize whenever I'm seeing a new animation. It is accompanied with rarely seen voice acting and sometimes actually cool animations. But as a mainly story-driven game, I expect a little bit more quality. This format can clearly be done better. People may argue that story games are also repetitive, what are you talking about? But Genshin Impact first can afford to do better. Second, it still feels so slow and dense. Let's roll back to chapter 1, the Liyue chapter. Spoiler warning. Yeah, that's it. You go to meet Rex Lapis, he's dead. You are sus. Then you get surrounded by the Millilith and you meet Child.
Come with me.
You need to go with the Adepti and explain your innocence. You meet Mooncover, fight good guys. He randomly tells you to go seek Mountain Shaper, Cloud Retainer, and Xiao. There's this section where you need to help a fella rescuing his brother from Amber? Okay, like... whatever. You meet Mountain Shaper, now go to Cloud Retainer, need to make an offering. You go investigate how to make the offering, you make an offering. Now you need to pass a dungeon with a slow as fuck memory minigame. Now we meet Cloud Retainer, now we meet Xiao, but sadly he disappears on a black screen transition.
This is so sad. Can we dethrone Celestia and bring back Kenra?
You want to make almond tofu, Jeff can cook cause of Ghost. You watch Symbol, you find Symbol, you pursued a child, fight a rune hunter, welcome to a random cringy America's Got Talent audition, and finally return to Liyue Harbor. Child introduces you to Shangli. Shangli introduces you to a lot, like incredible amounts of fetch quest. Not in the amount, but the time required for getting a Nautilus Jade perfume, a cleansing bell, workers, and some motherfucking incense. Okay. Okay, now that we are finally done with all of this, we're gonna be able to see the rite of parting.
At last I have
Nice.
found you.
No, shut up, Ganyu. Shut up, I love you, but shut the fuck up. Oh, I guess it's more filler. Light novel games have done a lot of progress when it comes to monotonous dialogues. Why not copy some of those options, Hoyverse? It doesn't have to be everything, but please add a freaking skip button. Oh my god, look at those humongous pair of hungalunga-nunalagungas. Wow. I'm obviously talking about her eyes. Oh wait. Most of the community will agree that the characters mostly become the only thing to look forward to. I don't think people really continue doing their dailies just for the chance to play Mimitomo or something like that, I don't know. Characters are the whole money counts from the game. They are the main product, the main attraction, the fruit of the tree. So of course it's Hoiver's priority, right guys? Right? Right? Characters are just packages of story and gameplay that are pulled out of the spooky scary gacha system. And design wise, well, you can judge for yourself. This is Raiden Shagan, alias of the shit. She is the Electro Archon, which in other words means she is the god of Electra and the ruler in Inazuma. Her whole thing is that she revolves deeply on the idea of eternity, and for a lot of players it ends there, but let's give it more thought. So what other element to represent her than Electro? It suits her perfectly since Electro is a constant flow of energy. If you think about her kit, everything starts connecting to. Her whole kit revolves around the stat of energy recharge. This is used to be able to recharge the elemental burst or alt more quickly. Now Raiden has firstly a skill that can be eternally activated, which makes it so every time a character does a normal hit, an Electro Slash will appear making additional damage and generating energy particles. Raiden also has this circle that stands behind her always. The circle will start to get full with some actions such as getting the energy particles or using other characters' ults. And the fuller the circle is, the more damage her ult will do. This means that her kit rewards her for inserting energy into the team and withdrawing that energy into burst, meaning she gets rewarded for having a constant in and out of energy, or in other words, a constant flow of energy. What is this level of detail? Yes, this is the peak character design of Genshin Impact, a character that her main goal is reflected into its own gameplay, design and dialogues. And not only that, Hoiverse managed to turn art into a playable kind of thick 3D anime waifu for a free-to-play video game. Like, we can throw them all the shit we want, but we need to recognize perfection when we say it, ladies and gentlemen. Oh shit, I almost forgot I need to stay loyal to my queen. Fuck it, take my fucking life, my soul, my credit card, and my Luigi amiibo, I don't care, have it. I do have an observation to make with the character aesthetics though. I know we just talk about how perfect is Ball, but like, she looks like she could let a whole nation accumulate thousands of years of experience and create a typical Chernobyl river with one slash. She honestly looks like, a normal Japanese mom from anime. Okay, that's really specific. Anyways, this happens with other characters, like they all seem fashion models even if the character doesn't have that kind of personality. Like, would you believe this is an actual librarian? Hell, if librarians were like this, libraries will always be crowded. They will turn into the main reunion point of every city. Jesus will have preferred to perform one. Everyone will be so educated from reading books in the library. My race of people will turn into dangerous species and people will stop commenting first in YouTube videos. Is this a bad thing? For me, hell nah. Nah, actually nah. The more urge I get to sell my extremities to get a character upon first sight, the better. Although yeah, some people may find this troubling. And well, as the mainstream game as they are, of course they can't print out pure gold constantly. They got to, fuck it up from time to time, spit on some of them, bury them under the carpet and pretend they never existed. Now, don't get me wrong, the worst characters of Genshin Impact are actually pretty decent. Sometimes. But like as a game that has proven that they can do good, it is disappointing that they can actually hold that quality. And in a game where getting a character is actually a big accomplishment, imagine the character you have been saving for the past year is total BS. From 1 to 10, how dissatisfied would you be? I would give it a please however fix Jamiko. Okay, this section is a lot longer than I wanted, but the last thing I wanted to say is that please however use your fucking skin system. My gosh, I don't know anything about software development, but I have seen thousands of versions of the same dance animation on every character. I suppose it is not much a lot of work changing a model into another model. Please add Beido's orchestral suit, please. Music, excellent. Aesthetic, perfection. Although I would 100% suggest some changes. It's beautiful, but the world really feels lifeless to me. There are plenty of animals and enemies or NPCs that populate Teyvat, but after seeing everyone respawn over and over again on the same position and NPCs doing the same thing over and over, it does feel unnatural. I know this is a natural consequence of playing for too much a certain video game, but characters are never there. Not even when they invite you into something in their birthdays. Only when there is a story quest. No mobs interact with each other except these wholesome hillitros. It wouldn't matter a lot, but when you have so encrusted this feeling of lifeless, not even new areas with new enemies seem to feel alive. I like more reactive flora or more passive mobs or something. Like, it's crazy that the minerals feel more alive than fucking plants. Really, minerals can grow in mineral chunks sometimes, yet plants never ever change. Now, about new areas though, I said they are lifeless, but I have to applaud to Hoyoverse. Bravo! that was awkward. When it comes to creating a whole new feel or atmosphere, Hoyoverse takes the crown. The ambientation, the colors, the textures, the mechanics, the characters, even in the music there is some level of that's a difficult word to pronunciate. That's another word. What the fuck am I? There's some level of differentiation. Something that makes the scene so distinguishable and unique. Here, look, Mondstadt, the city of freedom. A place where everything is emancipated from any gravamen, just like wind. Look, Inazuma, the city of eternity, a place of seriousness and character. Look, Liyue, the city of prosperity and contracts, a tranquil and admirable place. Look, Enkonomiya, seriously the best place to rock to music. Damn! Hey guys, aren't we forgetting something? If we forgot, then it wasn't important. Are vision holders real? If they are, what the fuck have they been doing? The world doesn't reflect on a human civilization that has people who can control a certain element. Like, I do remember expecting Liyue to be more like Mexico, or have a lot of, stone, but instead we got this, which, yes, it is cool and pretty, but this is normal. You tell me there are geo people that can manipulate life but not make better roads? Like, what? You can think that maybe it's because visions are really rare, but that argument doesn't hold up when you consider the amount of enemies with visions. Are you telling me no one fucking uses visions for something other than combat? Just imagine what if there was like a half-burned forest done by a single crazy pirate person, or what if there was a boat sailing completely made out of ice? What about a tree totally disfigured by Dendro users? Am I asking for the next Avatar, The Last Airbender? Yeah, probably. It would be cool if they actually implemented something like this though. Anyways, despite everything I said, it does works. The world sometimes feels like it's designed just to be aesthetically that's another tough word.
Aesthetically
pleasing, but whether this is preferable or not is so much personal preference. The world works as the plane where all the game's plot develops, and it may not shine in one department, but in the things it makes right, it makes them marvelously. So again, aesthetically, Genshin Impact is good. I don't have a concrete opinion on the combat system. I don't love it nor hate it, so this section is more about pointing out its ups and downs so you can create your own opinion about it. Up. Combat in this game is highly reliant on the characters you get. Different characters having different combat styles makes for a diverse and fun experience, like counter gameplay, spam abilities gameplay, bazooka simulator gameplay, anxiety, and whatever this thing is. Oh, did you notice? Yes, it is a physical kiki. Yes, I'm trying to justify my resource spending on my physical kiki by indirectly asserting dominance on this video. What am I doing? It's really fun to try and learn the different mechanics of all the characters, but if you think about it on the Gacha system, I don't really know if this is good or not. Where some of the fun is actually behind a wall of luck, meaning one of the main reasons to pull a character is not of necessity, but just fun. Down. My problem with combat in this game is that it is highly reliant on the characters you get. Isn't this what I just said? Yes. Story time. My first ever character was Changyun, which I totally ignored since at the time it was my friend's main. And you know, having the same main as your friend is kinda awkward. It's kinda like an act of betrayal. Such an immoral decision. Anyways, fortunately in the same 10 pool, I also got Beidou. Beidou? I don't know. Beidou stands out for her ability to counter enemy attacks, although nowadays there are more abilities similar to these. I started maining her, and because of that I consider my experience throughout the whole game different from other people. Since Beidou is Electro, I didn't really focus on elemental reactions since electro reactions are worthless, and the ability to counter enemies made me pay attention to enemy attack patterns and memorize the timing of them, which if you had another character, it's not something that important, and sometimes even you can ignore it completely. This was kinda fortunate for me. Perfect countering is one of the most satisfying things in the game. And for a long time due to these, I couldn't find enjoyment out of other characters because they lacked that spice, you know? Like, it seemed to me other characters, especially Catalyst users' gameplay to just be spam abilities and the click button to win. That's it. So in a way, messed up with my view of the game, but I had a lot of fun with it. The important thing to take from this is that it may be bad for new players because they have low options on the type of gameplay they can do, and mostly it means that a lot of the fun will come down into how lucky you are. If you get Diluc as your favorite character, you have a pretty standard experience. If you get, for some reason, Shangli as one of your favorite characters, there's a high chance you will not know there's a button for dashing around. And if you get Raiden, you may think that everyone's energy recharge is too low. Up. The reaction system is like the common ground for all combat, and I find it fun to play and simple to understand. Down, the perfect reaction system for me will be a simple system to understand but one that allows for complex gameplay, and the reaction system that we currently have, I would say it's simple to understand, but it's just simple, and the terms complex and simple are highly subjective things, yes, but I suggest that reactions should feel like more game-changing or like feel more important. So it allows for more thought and great methodic compositions, not just elemental fiesta for the sake of killing people faster. There's still hope though, maybe Dendro will be game-changing or something. How to correctly build a character. 1. Get the character. 2. Get constellations. 3. Get the weapon. 4. Get the refinements. 5. Level up the character. 6. Ascend the character. 7. Repeat process 5 and 6 until you get to level 90. 8. Level the weapon in the same way. 9. Level up the talents. 10. Enter the never-ending process of farming the perfect artifacts until the universe either explodes or you die. 11. Oh, human traveler. I have bad news for you. Side effects may include depression, poverty, or death. If you experience one of these, please shut up about it. Everything is sold separately. The amount of fucking grind in this game is literally potentially infinite. I mean, you don't have to grind eternally because there is no difficulty in the game whatsoever, but even to get a character to a good state, you have to play for around like 3 weeks. Why? Thanks to the revolutionary resin system, years of gaming industry existing just to go and screw it up. Just pretend that I say it correctly. I'm tired. Way to go, Hoyverse. Just why? I just can't think of one person who could have come up with this idea. Megan. I know this is a critique, so even though I hate the resin system, I had to give it a chance. In order to understand why resin is in this game, I tried coming up with a list of reasonings for it. So here we go. Top 10 reasons why the resin system exists. Number 1. Because you hate the people. Just why though? Like, oh my. Number 1. To prevent the progress of hardcore players. Why should you not let people play at their own paces though? Nah, this doesn't make sense. I can come up with another idea. Number 1. Okay, I understand the use of similar systems on mobile games. It's a way to stretch the experience of a user by not adding a ton of content. Back in the days where mobiles were not really that powerful, so it was a nice way to efficiently use your resources to engage the media. Also, mobile game design relies a lot on how accessible phones are. You just take it out of your pocket and boom, you can play it anytime at any place. But it raises the question, why does Genshin Impact has this lame ass resin system? Is it really a game you can play anywhere at any time? And even if you argue that the answer is yes, putting a system that was designed due to one platform characteristics on a game that shares a lot of other platforms is kinda cheap. Seeing the bigger picture, that's why a lot of other franchises opt for making a separate mobile version or make a normal version and pass it out to the mobile instead of all the way around. People, I need ideas. Seems like we need to make people come back to the game regularly. What can we do? What about making lots of content? There exists more than 1,000 languages in this world and you chose to speak shit? What about making an endless dungeon? Long missions with good rewards like cosmetics? Why are you here? PvP? We could maybe release the game when it's finished. Or what about we just don't do nothing? We are a story-driven game after all, right? Slash game mode create. What about implementing a resin system and also add a never-ending or incredibly hard requirement for building characters so players never run of things to do? Let's go, number 1. The laziest method of engagement. And I haven't talked about the artifact system. It's not because you get characters in a lucky wheel that the game is considered gacha, but literally an airplane is passing by. But literally you roll constantly in a fundamental part of building a character on the most convoluted and almost always infuriating system. How to correctly evaluate an artifact. 1. Check if it is from the correct set. 2. Check if it's a piece that you need. 3. Check main stat. 4. Check if the number of substats are 3 or 4. 5. Check if it has good substats. 6. Level up the artifact and hope that it rolls 5 times on the good stats. Yeah, good luck with that. 7. Wait another millennia for another god artifact. It's luck over luck over luck over luck over luck. Which I would understand if artifacts weren't like a high deal, but they are a high deal. The difference between a character with good artifacts and bad artifacts is insane. And because they play such a big part of building a character, farming for artifacts can turn to an activity that lasts months. And for what? The Spiral Abyss? What a joke! The Spiral Abyss has a lot of problems, and one is the enormous gap of difficulty. This is Spiral Abyss and this is the rest of the game. If you build your character so you can do Spiral Abyss, the rest of the game will turn futile because of how easy it turns. And if you don't do it for Spiral Abyss, then your team will have no meaning since there is no place to try your advancement. You inevitably turn to the One Punch Man of Genshin. Oh look, it's the part that everyone likes. Exploring is actually a great aspect of the game. Apart from the aesthetic, the game offers an exaggerated amount of chest. And I mean a staggering amount of chest. Seriously, who left their loot in here? How responsible? I do enjoy the serenity that comes from exploring large masses of empty landscape, but damn! There's something about exploiting the biological composition of our brain rewarding it with unhealthy quantities of dopamine in order to feel good, doing a meaningless act of pressing a mechanical button, watching pixels turn different colors, and hearing the sound of now-trained gratification. So wonderful, isn't it? Wait, what? Now, one problem may be that the act of exploration is one that can only be repeated once, like chests don't appear again and environments don't really change that much. But it's a universal problem of exploration in general, so yeah, this paragraph is pointless. Why am I still writing this shit? I really enjoy this approach to exploring, since really it's nothing I have ever seen in other games. I call it a cheap way to make exploring engaging, but the game accompanies it with great soundtrack and great views. And for a gacha adventure game, it's exactly what I would expect. Every place is really detailed, and every new zone that they add really feels like something else, thus the feeling of exploring something new is always there. Genshin really knows how to keep it refreshing, and I applaud to that. So at the end, we get an overall cool experience, and really becomes no surprising that it is one of the most praised aspects of the game. How does multiplayer on a open world, history-driven game, waifu husbando collector simulator sounds to you? Is it something you want to play with the boys? For me, absolutely. I was actually dragged by the boys. They told me,
¿Quieres?
I didn't have any idea of what Genshin Impact was. Enter expecting to be a ride of joy with my homies. Did it surpass my expectations? Yeah, maybe no, kinda. This is absolutely a single player game with multiplayer aspects, which is not to be confused with a multiplayer game with single player aspects. It's totally two different things. Which means if you really want to have like a group or guild or something along those lines, prepare to get your dreams crushed. Genshin Impact is not a multiplayer game. It uses multiplayer more as a tool than an actual game mode for players who need help clearing domains, bosses, or farming. Honestly, multiplayer is designed in such a way that it only works for those who really need help, but for those who don't need help or those who just want to have fun, it just doesn't. 1. Domains enemies HP scales depending on how many players there are on your team, which is understandable since having 4 characters on the field means 4 sources of damage at the same time. But if you have the characters to pass a domain, it's probably faster or equally faster to do it on your own without adding queue times and the setup, which means there is no real incentive to play multiplayer. 2nd, players take away your team spaces, which means that instead of getting 4 players with a team of 4 characters each one, meaning 16 characters, we get 4 players with 1 character each. Which means if you enjoy swapping characters and having a frenetic gameplay, you'll find this unappealing. 3. Another reason to play multiplayer, if not for domains, is open world exploration, but the majority of the materials and experience will go to the host. Then again, no real incentive to do it. The only thing you can get is some minerals and monster drops, but why not exploring your own world where you will get the whole cake for yourself? I'm grateful multiplayer exists. It makes life so much easier for people with more than 1 account, and also just the random stuff that makes multiplayer, multiplayer. I remember one day I was just chilling, doing the usual stuff. A guy tries to enter my world, and I was feeling generous that day. I let him in, asked what bit he needed. He asked me instead if I wanted to hear him play the lyre. I told him yes, and before I know it, he's playing one of the most beautiful melodies that I have ever heard. Fuck you, Genshin community. But really, multiplayer is not like...
It's the final moment! Let's light it up!
But it's more like, hey bro, do you have any more resin? No, understandable, have a great day. You can farm together, but having single player available and multiplayer not really being an advantage, most of the time you'll choose it over the tussle of having to schedule a session with your friends. Which sucks, but I mean, this is a single player after all. Upon millennia of grinding the perfect artifacts, spending the world's equivalent of the Golden House Mora in C6 all characters, living eternally waiting for the resin system to reveal. After creating the ultimate team, the world's strongest team, finally you get to try spices from the west. Ooh. Welcome to your endgame content, or at least this is the type of content this game presents for those who have poured their time into a game. Does it work? Not at all. It can give you a momentary reason to come back to a game, but it doesn't quite feel the whole of endgame content. Do they work as events? Yeah, I guess so. For the definition, yeah, they are actually great and really diverse, something I have not seen in any other game. We have Fall Guys event, Dungeon Maker event, Bartender Simulator event, like there are a ton of crazy events. And it sounds so cool when you still have stuff to do. But once you reach AR level 55, due to a lack of endgame content, events turn to have really big shoes to fill, and while they work as events, the experience of seasoned players can be affected. If we judge events for events, as I said, they are actually good and surprising, but with the simple lack of endgame content, this creates a bunch of problems that makes events the replacement of something that it should be there. Believe me, events should feel like complements of the experience of the game, but here they are not. They work like literal content fillers. That's why if you are new to the game, they are exciting, while if you are old enough to not really have something else to do, they feel lame. And it is with this perception I'll judge or mostly rant about the events. Also, something to notice that the whole business of Genshin is the fear of missing out, or FOMO, all of the quality content gone in temporal events to retain players for a living, and maybe attract more players. Why not put in the events as minigames to the base game? FOMO, why not add in endgame content, because the efforts have to go to quality events for FOMO. And maybe it's not true, but with the lack of communication we get from this aspect of the game, which is endgame content, it just looks sus. And thus the way you see events, it's with a different eye. First, events are locked behind time gates, which is the most laziest, boring and infuriating thing about them. I actually can understand time gates on the events, Lantern Ride, Windbloom Festival, Iridori Festival, or Midsummer Island Adventure, but like a 6-fight event divided into 2 weeks, meaning like one fight unlocked every 48 hours. It's fucking pathetic. This is the way you're going to get everyone to not stop playing your game. Instead on depending on more formal systems in the form of endgame content. Oh, but people can wait for all the time gates to open, thus being able to play freely. But y'all know that the majority prefer instant gratification and will be playing one fight every 48 hours. Like if it's filler, then just let us get our fucking primogems and go to sleep early. I don't know, it's the least you could do out of respect. Another argument to support my hypothesis that events can feel lame is, well, there are these high respected events, for example Wind Trace, Divine Ingenuity, or Flowing Mastery. If they are taken as extras, then awesome, top tier events, but if we take it as content, everything crumbles. Of Dream K Dreaming is probably a fan favorite for y'all, and I love it as well. And if you take a bartender course, and while doing so, various characters from all around Teyvat coincidentally arrive at the tavern. Gameplay is just making drinks, which consist of a series of really simple minigames, and that's it. Why is this event great? Gameplay might not be something you would willingly play if it were on another context, but one of Genshin's main attractors is characters, so by putting them, it makes the otherwise cheap copy of a great Flash game a great Genshin experience. Now, if we judge Wind Trace, Divine Ingenuity, or the rhythm events, I repeat, as content, then they feel lame. Why? Because if you want a good prop hunt experience, you will go directly to Gary's mod. If you want a good 3D platformer experience, you will go to any other fucking game. Seriously, I couldn't stop having brain aneurysms because of how horrible is Genshin movement for parkour. If you want a rhythm experience, then you will go and play other games. Editing, the rhythm events are kinda saved by the fact that they use Genshin's superb music, but gameplay wise, as for right now, it's kinda meh. Editing of the editing, we just got the new Genshin event, the rhythm events, and I mean, it is obviously not as polished as a rhythm game, but like, it was pretty good. Yeah, I have to give it to them. Anyways, let's go back. This content is lackluster in terms of not only polish but the Genshin Impact essence. Like really, they can be whole different separate games, which sounds awesome, but if we judge it as totally separate games, they are lackluster and they just seem to have the trademark Genshin Impact just for marketing purposes, instead of having the trademark Genshin Impact because they feel like Genshin Impact. mini games or games or whatever. Throw some elemental reactions, mechanics into them, throw some characters, throw some story, some music, throw something that makes it a Genshin experience. But wait, what about the good events? Credit where is due, even though 3 out of 5 months of content can be mediocre, 2 out of 5 months have actually really outstanding events. So outstanding, in fact, that it makes you question, why don't they leave this in the game? Irodori, Windbloom, Lantern, Moonlight Merriment, and so on are really great events. And while lore-wise makes sense, they are limited events, like no player would mind if at least people who didn't have the chance to try these events had the opportunity to play them as secondary quests. Not even on Twitter you'd find conflict about adding them as story quests or something. But well, FOMO exists. So now a good event that surprisingly doesn't involve characters in Genshin for me is Theater Mechanicus, a tower defense sub-game. Not only it is kinda more polished, the enemies are Genshin Impact enemies. We can use reactions for better, you can actually use your team composition to apply a certain element or throw everyone to the void with Jin. It's tower defense but Genshin Impact T. It's not prop hunt for the sake of prop hunt. You know, I hope it's clear by now. So pretty much only big events are good. Everything else really seems like cheap forms of making the player come back regularly, which wouldn't be a problem if endgame content existed. Wait, haven't I talked about the laughable attempt of endgame content? Haven't I talked about Spiral Abyss? Yeah, surprisingly, Spiral Abyss is good. I mean, it can certainly use some improvements like leaderboards or some more variety, but it's not a laughable attempt, as I put it. The only thing that makes it pitiable is the larger problem that overshadows it. But it's not the whole Spiral Abyss fault. Why do we need Spiral Abyss? Because we need endgame content. Why do we need endgame content? What a stupid question, right? But do we really need it? Just think the game as a whole. Do you really want to have to come to this game specifically every day for the rest of your life? You may be inclined to say yes. You may already have a connection with this game. Even myself, I want to spend more time playing Genshin, but just maybe endgame content shouldn't exist. What is Genshin Impact? For me, at least, what makes Genshin Impact, well, Genshin Impact is its characters, its story, and its art. These parts by nature take long to craft, and if we had infinite repeatable endgame content, wouldn't that defeat the purpose? Endgame content will lack story, lack characters, and lack art, because it has to be something that can be generated indefinitely. And in the year that I live, we still haven't gotten such technology to do it. If we see it this way, the only thing developers can do is to keep releasing secondary stories on a scheduled manner, which is exactly what events are. But why do we need endgame content? What a stupid question, right? Of course we need endgame content. This is a gacha game. In order to have an incentive to engage on the gacha, you need to make characters desirable. You have to have endgame content. You have to have an objective to work towards. Because then, what's the point? We need endgame content and a better gameplay loop and better rewards. We players need something to come back regularly or their system will crumble to the ground. Two sides of the same coin. Opposite but both equally true. The game needs endgame content and doesn't need endgame content. So what's the solution? I think we might have stumbled across something bigger. So as a regular gamer I am, the gacha system is quite interesting and fun. It is quite a nice refreshing way of getting characters. It is really exciting. Like holy shit, the dopamine hit you get when you see the golden light is glorious. Or like when you win the 50-50, bro, depression is pure. But the longer I play, the clearer two things started getting for me. One, Hoyoverse is greedy. Two, characters' economics are kind of reasonable. Okay, wait, let me explain. So the price of getting a character is around $230 for one copy of a character. One copy in a game where there is a shitty constellation system, which means to unlock the full potential of your character you need 6 more copies of it, without counting the special weapon that comes with it, which you also need 5 copies of it. That's easily around $2,000 for just one character. Yes, you heard me right, $2,000! This fortunately is for unlocking a character full potential though. You can actually just get one copy of a character, you don't really need the whole cake. So that means you can pay the cheap, affordable price of $230 for one copy of a character. $230? Which by the way, this is a close average. 200! You know how many games could I buy in Steam? Do you know how many actual content could you get with $230? That's just absurd. I mean, the only value I see on it is the royalty that comes from owning a character you like, but like, who the fuck will buy this shit? Apparently everyone. Allow me to compare this with Dead by Daylight. I know, weird stretch, but you can get a whole different killer with deep lore, animations, whole different gameplay, perks, and one survivor for $10. And this can be surprising for y'all, but there's a 100% chance you will get it. Yeah, no chances, no roulette, you pay, you get it. Okay, I may be bitching about it too much, cause if I got the money, then yeah, absolutely, I would spend thousands of dollars just for a 3D NFT half of an ass of a character. But if you are an average, poor ass broke like me, just no. Who's giving this amount of money to Waifus? Is it you, bro? Oh my god, you lame failure of a human being. Point number 2, I have heard a lot of times from the community that the game is the greatest gacha they have ever played. And while this is completely true, no doubt, for how the game is built, Waifus can't really afford to give characters or pools on a regular basis. I'm not talking in money terms because we already talked about that, and yes, they can afford it, but I'm talking in game health terms. I mean, it is a weird stance to take. I would certainly enjoy if being a Primogem slot for 3 months wasn't required to get a character, but if you were to get all characters, then what's the point? The game doesn't really reward you for getting lots of characters. Literally, you can complete almost all of the base game with the initial characters you get. The game just doesn't give you a real reason to need more characters, and I think that's something to appreciate. Really don't need the latest 5-star to proceed in the game. You can actually grab any character and turn them into death machines. The fact that you can just never wish and finish the game, and that ultimately getting characters doesn't feel like a necessity and instead feels like an extra boost or just royalty. Throughout the whole video, I inferred that the main thing to drag out of this essay was that all players are fucked and the endgame content is the problem. But as we have seen, at least what I thought of Spiral Abyss being lackluster was not so true. In fact, Spiral Abyss is trying to cover up a much bigger problem, and part of the reason all players tend to be more exhausted from the game is because they are more exposed to that problem, not necessarily just because of lack of content. But then, what is this bigger problem? Well, I'm just gonna stop dragging it for too long. Genshin Impact is an adventure gacha game. Yep, that's it. It's so simple, let me explain. Before making this essay, when I heard gacha, I thought it referred to games that have as a core mechanic luck, like if the only gacha part of Genshin Impact was only the wish system. But that wasn't true, at least not the whole truth. Gachas are really complex games. They use abstract systems to tie all of its experience together. And while the main attraction it does is pulling for characters, a lot has to be built to reach to a point where a player wants to pull characters. I call them gacha ecosystems because I can't wrap my mind around them. The whole economics, the currencies, the daily gameplay loop, the constant immediate gratification makes this ecosystem. So all of these little things that I mentioned makes gachas. Gacha, and unfortunately, it's also the reason why Genshin Impact suffers. Gacha and adventure don't have a good synergy. They mostly affect one and each other. It only creates a bunch of problems. You already know them. Throughout the whole video I rambled about some things in the game, and those things were almost always things that were troubling due to the dual nature of the game. These rants are caused due to being exposed for too long to the internal hassle of the game wanting to be two incompatible genres at the same time. And it's not that the game can go back and restart everything again, so it means that it will forever be like this. For an adventure game, the wish system is exciting but cheap. Commissions are stupid, unacceptable, grinding is humongous, resting is a joke, and for a gacha game, the gameplay loop is a fucking disgrace, the game pace is slow, the economy is pretty unrewarding, and more stuff. In parentheses, I yet myself become a gacha connoisseur. Wait, I didn't have to read in parent, whatever. Events will be more unique and special, there wouldn't be FOMO tactics, there wouldn't be no need for endgame content if the game only was an adventure game. There wouldn't be a constant fight between wanting a player to come back to the game regularly and wanting the player to take this game seriously. It is mainly because this simple disconnection between these two ideas that Genshin Impact will never be a true masterpiece, a 10 out of 10 game, because of the conflict that lies at the core. It's simply flawed. Although there is one strong connection between gacha and adventure though, and that's the characters. The only good connection, but a really strong one indeed. Characters really are exponentially better, and I think that's one of the reasons behind the big success of Genshin Impact. For I quote one of my private conversations with Prima Man, "You know, really there's almost no way to not subjectively judge a gacha. It mostly doesn't matter the gameplay, the pooling system, or how greedy or generous a game is. There's no point in playing a gacha if you don't like the characters, and that's the charm in it. The use of the adventure characteristics in the gacha part really multiply by 1,000 the connection between the characters of a well-written story. And from an adventure perspective, you can connect with characters not because of the story or design or gameplay, but because you were just lucky to have both them at first, or just because you have saved for that character for months or years. Characters are not only the money cows from the game, they are the heart of the game. And although it will forever be a flawed game, I'll probably forever continue playing because my characters will forever be there. And although it's not a masterpiece, Genshin Impact turns out to be a special game.
Se lo quiero. ¡Sí!
¿Acaso que Ay,
To be honest, no, I don't think this is a true honest valid critique. While I may hate the game for some reasons, Genshin Impact is still a fucking masterpiece. Some days I just am angry because of how I think this game could be better. I don't hate the game 24/7 every day of the year. Mostly that angry side has taken over and driven the production of this video, keeping a mostly negative, pessimistic, completely biased opinion. But it's not really that I do it to affect the game. There's a lot of stuff that can be done for the game, and as players, it is our responsibility to communicate our concerns in that game in order to make it better. And for my part, Well, that's everything I have to say. I really hope I don't mess with your perspective on the game though. This game has a bright future still, and while it may not be fixable, we can try to make the best out of the unique experience that an adventure gacha game presents. I'm really looking for Sumeru and Dendro. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching this video and have a wonderful day.